Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 53 of Piv's NXT Point of View podcast. My name is Bill Pivets. Before we get started, if you guys want, follow me on Twitter at bpiv_sports. And if you don't mind, rate and review the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, YouTube, and wherever else you guys listen to this. I greatly appreciate it. So this week's episode was main evented by Finn Balor versus Adrian Neville. No first name there. In a non-title match, and this was the final taping at the CFE Arena at UCF. And before I get started into the actual recap of the show, you can definitely tell this crowd has been through 4 NXT tapings. They are dead, they're quiet, the reactions aren't as loud as they were, save for a few people, but the reactions just for overall show just wasn't as loud as it was weeks ago. So the first match was a tag team match between the Vaudevillians and 2 jobbers, Hugo Knox and Tucker Knight. Job names right there, so you know what the result's going to be. The Vaudevillians are still getting cheers for some reason. I think it's because they're not really doing anything heelish besides their menacing look. I think their theme music's been the same. I think, I don't know if it changed to like a dark undertone kind of thing. But for the most part, they're acting pretty much the same, pandering to the crowd, taunting, that kind of stuff. So unless they do something drastic, the crowd's still going to cheer them. Hugo landed a drop kick, but the Vaudevillians took control. Tucker got the hot tag and took out both men, but Gotch put his leg up in the corner, and the Vaudevillians connected with the Whirling Dervish to get the win. Really not much to it. You know that the Vaudevillians aren't going to lose to these two, and the crowd just wasn't into it from the get-go. It was a pretty boring match, and that was pretty much the case for the rest of the night. Alex Reyes interviewed Dana Brooke and Emma. He brought up Deonna losing to Asuka again. Dana said that when they say something's going to happen, it'll happen. And Emma said she'll make an example out of her opponent later tonight. We got a video package for Finn Balor and his journey to where he is now. His first night at NXT, winning the NXT Championship. I believe it was at the Brock Lesnar Beast in the East special. He won it. And everything up until now. We then got a recap of the attack on Enzo by Dash and Dawson from last week. Enzo and Cass cut a promo in the parking lot, quoted earlier today. Cass called them gutless, and they will be the next NXT champions. We got a rebuttal from Dash and Dawson. Dash called them cowards, and Dawson said they're the best team in NXT today. On the March 12th WWE special, we will get a tag team title match as the Revival, known as Dash and Dawson, will defend their titles against Cass and Enzo. And I think that's a special where Triple H is going to defend his title against Dean Ambrose. So they're mixing in NXT and WWE guys, which is nice. Granted, I don't want to see some sort of invasion thing, but just co-branding the two, knowing that they're part of the same company, it's nice. Puts the tag champs on a bigger stage as well. Second match was Emma versus Santana Garrett. Emma got a huge reaction, and this is one of the few reactions I was talking about, mostly because I don't think Emma's been featured on these tapings, except for a couple backstage segments. But she hasn't really had many matches compared to some of the other teams that were on for 2 or 3 different times. So it was good to see the crowd liven up at least. Santana had like a Wonder Woman kind of look to her. She had this gold headband and like gold waistband, that kind of stuff. So she had that like Wonder Woman vibe. But too bad she wasn't Wonder Woman in the ring because Emma won this match. In the match, she landed a double underhook suplex. Santana hit a headbutt and Emma came back off the ropes with a huge kick. Santana tried making a couple comebacks with a leg sweep and a springboard elbow. She went to the top, but Emma crotched her and kicked her in her spine a couple times. Santana rolled her up, but Emma kicked out and then locked into the Emma lock to get the win. Pretty much another squash match, putting Emma back on the map and just keeping her satisfied until Asuka wins the title, I guess, and then that feud happens again. But it wasn't as nearly as one-sided as the tag match, but still not as entertaining as the main event. William Regal was seen talking to Eva Marie and Nia Jax. Regal said that they are big stars and should be treated as such, and he arranged for their next tag match to be against Bayley and Asuka, which I think this is going to be the starting point of the Bayley-Asuka match at TakeOver, and Eva and Nia didn't look that happy after hearing that announcement. Regal then sprinted apparently to the ring because he was ready to introduce NXT's newest acquisition, Austin Aries. And when they made this announcement, I completely forgot that this was going to happen. I read the spoilers that Austin Aries debuted here, but I completely forgot. I don't know why I thought Nakamura was going to debut on a taping that happened months ago. And I even saw Austin Aries at the NXT show in Asbury Park, so I don't know why it didn't cross my mind that his television debut was taking place here. But his music hit, the crowd waited for a little bit, he walked out, and then his name appeared on the big screen. He was taunting, slapping fives with the crowd down the aisle, and then Baron Corbin attacked him from behind. He threw him into the LED board along the apron, and my quote was the indie star hater strikes again, because this is like the third or fourth independent star that Baron Corbin has attacked. But during the attack, Regal had a pretty disgusted look on his face. Corbin hit the end of days on the mat, and then he yelled out an eye for an eye as he threw Austin Aries' shirt into Regal's face. So this is definitely a match that's going to happen at TakeOver. Austin Aries and Baron Corbin's been improving in recent months, so seeing him in the ring with another top guy like Austin Aries should be interesting, should be entertaining as well. Third match was Steve Cutler against Elias Sampson, and I should have fast-forwarded this match. At the end of it, I regretted not doing it, but I stuck through it. Sampson pummeled Cutler in the corner for a little bit, and then he hit a back elbow, and then he just stood there trying to play the air guitar very poorly. Cutler was crawling up to his feet, and then he beat down Cutler some more. He landed a suplex and a high knee before winning with his neck breaker. Yeah, I should have skipped this match. The Hype Bros cut a promo. Mojo said he's happy that they lost, gives them something to focus on, and maybe they were partying too much. Ryder said the Vaudevillians were bitter, but chose to mess with the wrong team, and the Hype Bros want to be the best team in WWE. Yeah, that's never going to happen. As they left, the Vaudevillians appeared from behind them, behind some sort of curtain, with like some smug look on their face, and then just stood there staring them down from behind. I don't know what that means. I like the intensity from the Hype Bros. It finally gives them some sort of focus and motivation, instead of just being the party guys all the time. But I don't know what the Vaudevillians are doing. No one likes the Hype Bros to begin with, so again, it's another team that I'm going to cheer for if they're going against the Hype Bros. But that's their booking. There's too many tag teams. Let me rephrase that. There's not too many tag teams. I like that there's a deep tag team division, but they're trying to do too much at the same time with all the different teams. You have the Chad Gable, Jason Jordan storyline as they're ascending towards the top. You have Dash and Dawson, Enzo, and Cass. Blake and Murphy are thrown in there as well. And now you have this, I think the number 3 tag team feud. So it might be a lot to take in as far as the tag team feuds are going. But I like that they're trying to do something with all the teams as well. Gives them some sort of focus. We later got a similar hype video for Neville like we did for Finn Balor. And we got reminded that Sami Zayn and Samoa Joe will be in a 2 out of 3 falls match next week to finally determine the number 1 contender for Finn Balor's title. So after all that, we were up to our main event of Neville versus Finn Balor. Early in the match, Tom Phillips made comparisons that Neville won his first NXT championship in a ladder match, in the first ever ladder match in NXT, and that Balor defended his title at NXT Brooklyn in a ladder match against Kevin Owens. He read off the list of NXT champs, but somehow either purposely forgot or slipped his mind that he forgot Big E and Bo Dallas. Neville had the upper hand with a huge hip toss and a basement dropkick. He had Balor grounded with a headlock for a little bit. Balor rolled through a sunset flip and connected with his own dropkick. Neville then hard-whipped Balor into the corner, stood over him, and we went to our first commercial break. Back from that, Neville was still in control. He ran towards Balor, but Finn tossed him up and over the ropes, and he crashed hard on the outside. I think he smacked either his arm or his head against the steel steps in the process. Neville came back with a running elbow and a springboard moonsault to the outside. Balor connected with the Pele kick a little later, and both men laid in the ring until they broke the count of 10. Balor hit 4 knife-edge chops in each corner, and then a second rope baseball slide. He continued with like a running soccer kick from the apron. Neville reversed the Bloody Sunday and landed a few kicks and a snap German suplex. He then deadlifted Balor off the mat and connected with another German suplex. He landed a nice enziguri, keeping his momentum going, and then he went to the top, and Balor hit his own enziguri, and Neville fell to the outside. Balor landed a huge dive over the top ropes, crashed on Neville and also on the steel ramp. He went to the top, but Neville crushed him, and this was a great sequence. It was a lot of near falls, a lot of fast-paced action, momentum switching from both Neville and Balor and back to the other person. The crowd was actually standing and cheering for it, popping for the near falls. Neville landed a super Kinrana, he missed the red arrow. Balor hit the sling blade. Neville rolled up Balor for another near fall, and Balor came back with a huge clothesline, pretty much turning Neville inside out. Connected with the shotgun dropkick, hit the coup de grace and the brain buster to get the win. After the match, Balor and the crowd applauded Neville, and they had a huge Neville chant that broke out. They shook hands. Neville left before raising Finn Balor's arm, or after raising Finn Balor's arm. Great match, best TV main event of these 4 tapings, and it's been the best TV main event for a long time. I don't know what that says about the top spot of NXT as far as putting on TV main events, because the last couple weeks with the women's division in that main event, it really didn't cut it. But I think Neville was working heel throughout the match as well. He had some heel tendencies, either taunting Finn Balor, not pandering to the crowd as much as he usually does. So he was working a little more aggressive than we've seen in weeks past with Neville. And I think it worked because Finn Balor is NXT's top babyface. You're not going to have a main roster guy undermine Finn Balor as well. So it worked in here because Neville, it's a one and done for him in NXT. He's going to go back to the main roster, and Finn Balor is going to go on to face either Sami Zayn or Samoa Joe. And I like that they landed some big moves. They pulled out a lot of big moves as well, as far as the dives over the top, the Super Conrana Neville hit. And he got some nice near falls, which put some doubt into the fans' mind that Neville could beat him, considering he is a past champion and he's on the main roster, telling that little story there. And the final sequence with the false finishes and the teases for the finishers were great as well. And now we just wait to see what the feud is leading into TakeOver Dallas. After the match, that actually wasn't the end of the show. Rich Brennan stood with both Samoa Joe and Sami Zayn. Rich said that it won't be easy next week, and Joe cut him off saying it should be easy. He called Sami Zayn ungrateful. Sami came back saying Joe's run has been off the work of others, and Joe called the situation ironic. He said that he's the reason Sami still has a career, but next week he takes it away. And it's a great final build, having these two confront each other, having this having this interview segment. And I appreciate that they haven't brawled like in feuds past. They've had their matches to determine the contender, but it's not blowing over into backstage like brawls or fights on the outside or anything like that. They've kept it civil in the ring, and they're just each telling their case why they should be the number one contender. And it works for me. It's very straightforward, very simple, that they're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that they win this match next week. As for this show, besides the main event, there really wasn't much that happened. I didn't care for it. I wish I didn't watch this week except for the main event. There was just 3 squash matches that really didn't lead anywhere. There was an announcement. I don't think Regal said that the women's tag match is taking place next week, but we're starting to get that ball rolling with Bayley and Asuka. The tag match announcement on the March 12th network special. So we have a little stuff in the future, but as far as next week, we just have the 2 out of 3 falls match. I'm not saying that's not enough, because that's going to be a great match, but leading into it, there just wasn't much that came out of these couple of tapings at UCF. Anyway, that was episode 53 of Piv's NXT Point of View podcast. Please follow me on Twitter at bpiv_sports, and I'll be back next week with episode 54. Peace.